Question. James Cartlidge, Shadow Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To ask the Secretary of State for Defence if he will make a statement on his department's contracts with Palantir.
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Palantir is a strategic supplier to the Ministry of Defence, providing secure data integration, analytics and AI platforms that help to support operational planning and decision-making. In 2022, the Conservative government signed a 3-year enterprise agreement with Palantir. In light of the growing significance of faster operational decision-making and the impact this technology has had in operations, including in Ukraine, this government negotiated a new enterprise agreement to update the one signed in 2022 that was published in a transparency note in December last year. As part of the development of the new enterprise agreement, the MOD negotiated a strategic partnership with Palantir last September. The SPA reaffirms the strong relationship developed between UK Defence and Palantir over the past decade. It includes new commitments that this government secured from Palantir, including £1.5 billion of investment into the UK, a new UK defence tech SME mentoring scheme to help companies grow and access the US market, and a commitment that London is to be the company's European defence headquarters. Mr. Speaker, when the government took over, what the Tories started in 2022, but we made it work better for Britain and better for our forces. And let me be clear, as the Defence Secretary has said, the contract was his decision and his decision alone. Peter Mandelson had no influence on the decision to award this contract. The deal we struck with Palantir is going to significantly reinforce the innovation of our forces, and it will reinforce the safety of this country as we move towards warfighting readiness.
Thank you for granting this urgent question, Mr. Speaker. And before turning to the detail, the Mandelson scandal is truly shocking. And when debating these matters, it is incumbent on all of us to remember the victims of Epstein's crimes. And Mr. Speaker, following Peter Mandelson's sacking as US Ambassador, serious questions surrounding his influence on MOD contracts have emerged and upon which we have had no meaningful answers. Specifically, the MOD signed a contract with US firm Palantir in December 2025 worth £240 million. Critically, at a time when UK defence companies are struggling for orders from their own government, this contract did not involve a competition with British firms, but was granted to a US company by direct award. Why was that? For the record, this is not about Palantir or any other US company, and from my time as Defence Procurement Minister, I recognise the huge mutual gain to us and our closest ally that results from our strong defence relationship. It is also true that many contracts in the MOD are rightly let on a single-source basis. Rather, this is about transparency. Above all, the question is to what extent Peter Mandelson and his firm Global Counsel, in which, at the time, he was a controlling shareholder, benefited from privileged access not available to potential UK competitors, which was used to deliver a £250 million defence contract to a client of Global Counsel without competition. So, can the Minister tell us, regarding the meeting between the Prime Minister, Peter Mandelson and Palantir in February 2025 in Washington, DC, is it true that no minutes were taken? And if not, why not? Crucially, at the time of the meeting, was the Prime Minister aware that Palantir was a client of Mandelson's firm? He must answer that. Also, in the build-up to the US state visit, we understand that Peter Mandelson lobbied the UK government for deliverables. Will the Minister commit to publishing what those deliverables were and if they involved any clients of Global Counsel? Finally, Mr. Speaker, on actions to take. Given the public interest in this matter, will Defence Ministers follow the lead of the Health Secretary and publish all their correspondence with Peter Mandelson? In addition, in the spirit of the humble address, will the Government publish all relevant material in relation to this contract award as part of the Mandelson files?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I said in my first answer, Peter Mandelson had no influence on the decision to award this contract. It was a decision made by the Secretary of State and his decision alone. As the Shadow Secretary of State well knows, this enterprise agreement builds on the one that Conservative ministers signed with Palantir back in 2022, and he knows that the MOD uses Palantir tools and technology on a daily basis to support the operations and wider data analytics. I'm sure he's not suggesting that we shouldn't be maintaining access to those vital capabilities. Is he saying that his government was wrong to formalise that relationship with Palantir in their 2022 agreement? I don't think he is. I think it is really important that we publish the information. Last time I was in Washington, unfortunately, the then ambassador was not available to meet or to be there for when I was there. But the Prime Minister has been clear at the dispatch box that the public and the House deserve transparency, and we intend to publish as much material as we can as soon as reasonably possible. The Cabinet Office is working with the Met Police and the Parliament's Intelligence and Security Committee to ensure that the release of any documents do not prejudice the Met investigation or the UK's national security and international relations. The process for doing that is underway, in addition to the other actions the Prime Minister has already taken.
Chair of the Select Committee, Tanmanjeet Singh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. In this evolving security environment, it's clear that developments in AI, in tech, are changing the world at a rate of knots, and that those things are integral to defence. But obviously, this must not come at the cost of transparency, trust, and benefiting British businesses. For those honourable members who have been serving in this House for quite some time, dealings with Palantir have been the subject of intense scrutiny and speculation for several years. But, Minister, the key question here is, why was this particular contract not subject to the usual procurement processes, competitive processes?
Minister.
Thank my honourable friend for his question. The Palantir Enterprise Agreement was a direct award justified under the Procurement Act. The Enterprise Agreement covers existing services, and where there is a robust technical justification for using Palantir products and services for defence outcomes, all procurement procedures were followed with the publication of a transparency notice.
Calum Miller, Liberal Democrat spokesperson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 2020, Palantir accepted £1 in fees to trial its data collection services during COVID. Since then, the company has amassed more than £500 million worth of contracts with the NHS and MOD. Given the growing scale of Palantir's involvement in the UK, transparency around its operations is vital. Yet the government has consistently chosen to obfuscate rather than clarify. And this is especially important with technologies that may lock the UK into dependency on one supplier. So in respect to the recent £240 million contract awarded to Palantir, can I ask the Minister one more time, can he please tell the House why there was no competitive process? Was the Defence Secretary aware of Peter Mandelson's commercial links to Palantir when this decision was taken, as the Minister says, solely by him? Last month, Donald Trump threatened a NATO ally with annexation. Despite that, the government has chosen to greenlight a multi-million-pound defence contract with a company co-founded by Trump's billionaire backer Peter Thiel. We must be alert to the genuine risk that data collected by Palantir in the UK could be fed back to the White House. So can the Minister provide firm guarantees that all data collected by Palantir will not be shared beyond our Ministry of Defence?
Minister.
Can I thank him for his questions? He will have heard the answer I've just given on the procurement process to the Chair of the Select Committee. The decision, as I set out in my answers earlier, was the Secretary of State and the Secretary of State alone. He's been clear about that. He will know that the UK has a strong security and defence partnership with the United States. We are clear that we will continue to invest in that strong security and defence partnership, just as we deepen those partnerships with our European friends and allies further afield. And in relation to data, UK defence data used and developed in Palantir's software remains sovereign to the UK and under the control of the MOD and resides in the United Kingdom. We've been clear, we have clear contractual controls in place to ensure this, as well as the control of the data system that Palantir's software sits upon. Any change from this cannot be conducted without consent of the MOD.
Don Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for his response. When I stood on that side of the House, I raised concerns about Palantir and the £1 deal that was made. It was always a trap to ensure that Palantir got its foot in where no one else could. The co-founder of Palantir is mentioned in the Epstein files. Mr. Speaker, I think anyone who's mentioned in the Epstein files should be fully investigated by this House, by the police. I think it's absolutely disgrace. The Minister must ensure that there is transparency and robust safeguards. Palantir and AI organisations have the ability to bamboozle ministers and things unless we have concrete ways of ensuring that they cannot abuse the power that they have. Thank you.
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for her question? She's right that investigations are underway, and as we made clear as a government to the House last week, we will fully cooperate with those investigations and make sure that the information that the House requires to be published is done so in a way that can create the transparency that we are all seeking. There are already safeguards in place around the use of artificial intelligence in Ministry of Defence decision making, and we are looking at new ways of enabling new opportunities, especially for UK firms, to be able to access a growing requirement within the Ministry of Defence for faster decision making, speedier decisions, and also better data management. I understand the concerns that she's raising around AI and safeguards, and will continue to update the House as the AI strategy that DCIT has published will roll out.
Father of the House, Sir Edward Lee.
Most British scandals are fairly pathetic by international standards because they're on the, like, serving a piece of cake to the Prime Minister. But this scandal is monumental because it involves somebody in government service using his position for commercial gain. So in my experience, long experience of these scandals, what brings down presidents and prime ministers is not the original scandal, it's the cover-up. It's the cover-up. So my advice to the Minister is now to answer these perfectly sensible questions that have been put to him, particularly from the Chairman of the Defence Select Committee about the lack of competitive process, particularly from the opposition spokesman about the meeting that happened in Washington. Will he now answer the questions put to him?
Well,
Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have answered those questions, but can I say politely to him, the Partygate scandal, which is not the subject of this urgent question today, is not a trivial scandal. It undermined confidence in the government at a time where we were being asked to do something that the decision makers were not doing themselves. It is not a trivial scandal, and I think it's important to put that clearly on the record. I agree with him that transparency is necessary and important as part of this. The MOD publishes our procurement decisions in the usual and transparent way, continuing the theme from when his party was in office. We will continue to do so, and I'm very happy to continue to take questions around transparency in this contract.
John Trickett.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And given the scale of the contract, almost £250 million, and the fact that Mandelson had a contract with Palantir and then attended a meeting in Washington after he became the ambassador with the Prime Minister and Palantir, questions inevitably arise. So can I ask the Minister explicitly whether all the papers relevant to the visit of the Prime Minister or the contract will be made available to the ISC as we decided last Wednesday? And finally, I'm aware at least 5 or 6 senior civil servants in the Defence Ministry have gone to work with Palantir. Can we have an assurance that there are proper firewalls in place to protect the interests of the public as against the private interests of Palantir?
Minister.
I thank my friend for his questions. They're valid questions to ask at the moment, and let me say to him clearly and to the House that the agreement that was struck last week around the humble address and the publication of the information this government will stand by and honour, and if there are necessary documents that need to be published from the Ministry of Defence, we will continue to support that cross-government effort in order to do so. When it comes to the employees, we make clear in relation to anyone that has worked in defence moving to a defence contractor, be it Palantir or any other defence contractor, that there are certain obligations they must have and certain requirements that they must have. Palantir employ an awful lot of UK veterans and have made employing veterans a point of principle for them. That is a good principle that all defence companies should abide by, in my view, but I take the point that he says and I agree with it.
Sir Julian Lewis.
Does the Minister know whether or not minutes were taken of the key Washington meeting in February last year? And if they weren't taken, why weren't they taken? And why was Lord Mandelson, as a political appointee, not required to sever any links with his former activities and business that could have been a conflict of interest with his role as ambassador?
Minister. I thank the right to jump for his question. I think Peter Mandelson has let us all down in this House from this. The question about the minutes is being looked at by Downing Street at the moment, and it will be for them to publish more in due course.
Dr. Lawrence Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Minister for his statement and just want to really expand and press on about the safeguards that are put in place. So in terms of contracts, and this could be a number of different contracts being held to ransom or lock-in. What safeguards are there to protect the sovereignty and retain the protection of our data? And actually, is there an exit strategy for actually if the Minister wants to choose a different contract in the future?
I thank my friend for her question. Vendor lock is something that we take very seriously because we, as we are building a more comprehensive AI framework within the Ministry of Defence, we will be using AI more frequently in more aspects of defence, just as the wider economy is doing exactly the same as well. We want to make sure that that data is sovereign. Our contract with Palantir retains the sovereignty of that data and decision-making over the systems that that data sits on. That data resides in the United Kingdom and no changes can be made by Palantir without the consent of the MOD. It is precisely because we take that data so seriously that those are locked into the contract.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Building on those same questions, which have come from the Select Committee again today, where they said that Dhesi was fundamentally in the loop for actually buying things, so I challenged the statement. It was so purely the Secretary of State that made the decision. We've seen this contract at nearly 3 times the value of the previous contract with Palantir. We see this contract given that only Palantir can run this service, and to change it would be a significant cost, to quote the MOD statement, in terms of changing all the analytics. We are entirely locked in to a company that is now hiking up the price. What is the exit strategy, Minister?
Minister. Well, I thank him for his question. We signed a contract with a supplier to provide a service that there is a clear military need for and a clear utility to strengthen our armed forces. We keep all contracts, not just the Palantir ones, under constant review to make sure they're delivering against the obligations that have been signed up for. We'll continue to do that here. We want to see more companies provide AI services, and as part of that, we're looking at how we can support more British AI companies interact with defence. It is precisely the reason why we stood up recently the Defence Office of Small Business Growth, because there are many AI companies that are not yet defence AI companies, but could be. We're trying to make it easier for them to access defence contracts.
Mr.
Speaker, Minister, this deal with Palantir stinks. It stink and stank before Peter Mandelson was involved. It stank when the benches opposite initiated it into our NHS and defence contracts. Peter Thiel is an oligarch who despises democracy. The company has widespread allegations of human rights abuses. Even the Swiss Army has rejected Palantir as a platform on national security grounds. Surely after Greenland, now is an opportunity for our country, this government, to begin to distance itself and pivot away from companies like Palantir, who are so closely connected with Donald Trump. Time to move away. Will the government commit to a pivot?
Minister.
As I've set out to the House, so I appreciate the passion that the honourable gentleman has on this matter, but as I've set out to the House, we will continue to maintain a close defence and security relationship with the United States. It is in our national security interest to do so, but in signing any agreement with a US company, just as it would be the case with a French or German or Australian company, we make sure that agreement is in the UK national interest, and we make sure the controls are in place, in particular when it comes to AI contracts around sovereignty of the data. We'll continue to make sure those standards are upheld in all contracts, but we will also continue to work with international partners where there's not a UK provider that can deliver that work, or where the services that they offer are in excess or deliver a defence capability faster, better or cheaper than one provided elsewhere.
I just want to come back to a question that my right honourable friend asked at the dispatch box in his initial question. When the Prime Minister met with Palantir and Peter Mandelson in February 2025 in Washington, DC, was the Prime Minister aware that Palantir were a client of Peter Mandelson's firm, Global Counsel? Yes or no?
Minister. As I replied to the right honourable gentleman behind him, that's a matter for Downing Street to publish in due course. I've spent the last 3 days in Saudi Arabia, I'm afraid, so just catching up with the events of the last few days. I've been clear about where that information will come from, and I can direct him in that direction.
Rachel Musk.
Mr. Speaker, there is a pattern. Palantir in the NHS, a £1 COVID contract expanded to a £330 million contract under the last government. In the Ministry of Defence, tripling the size of the contract to £240 million without due process, without competition. And as we have seen, the links with Global Counsel are there now for the record. So will the Minister ensure that all contacts with Global Counsel from his department and across government, because there are 34 contracts with public sector bodies in all with Palantir, are published so we can understand the revolving doors around Peter Mandelson, Global Counsel and this government?
Minister.
I appreciate the direction of travel and the passion that my honourable friend has in that. We did follow due process in accordance with the Procurement Act in awarding this contract, and as I've set out clearly, we will comply with the agreement made last week around the publication of data and documents.
Dave Dougal.
Mr Speaker, this is yet more extraordinarily poor judgment on the part of the Prime Minister to meet personally with Palantir, a highly questionable organisation complicit in the ruination of Palestine and the devastation being wreaked in the US by ICE. Palantir are into the United Kingdom taxpayer for £500 million, half of which is uncompeted. We should be concerned about Palantir full stop. We should be concerned, in addition, about a direct award. We should further be concerned by that company being a client of Peter Mandelson, and then a meeting with the Prime Minister, for which apparently there are no minutes. When will Downing Street come up with a confirmed position on whether there were or were not minutes taken in that meeting with Mandelson?
As I've been clear to the House in a number of answers, we will continue to have a security and defence relationship with the United States. It is in our national interest to do so. As a party that takes defence and security very seriously, something that I hope his party would do more of in the thing, although I have much respect for him, I will continue to make sure that we get the best services for our armed forces as we move to war-fighting readiness. I've answered the response about minutes. That will be for Downing Street to publish in due course.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I welcome this government's record funding and our defence, and I also recognise the US are one of our closest allies. But we often in this House talk about energy security. I think sometimes we don't talk about security. And I wonder what more this government can do to invest in UK tech firms so we're less reliant on foreign firms.
Can I thank my friend for his question? He's absolutely right that we look at security, data security, and the opportunities here. So in the Strategic Defence Review, we set out our direction of travel in defence, and investing in new technologies, including artificial intelligence, is absolutely key to securing our national security. I want to see the best-in-class products used by our armed forces. I also want to see more British SMEs, in particular, being able to access this area. We've stood up the Defence Office of Small Business Growth. We're looking about how we can, in particular, support small defence AI companies to onboard their software and a whole range of defence utilities. We'll continue to do so as we look to spend more of a rising defence budget with UK SMEs.
Sir Julius.
Mr Speaker, the Secretary of State have said that Peter Mandelson was not involved in the decision about Palantir. But the issue is not the decision, it is the run-up to that decision. We know that Peter Mandelson was flying in, or that executives from Global Counsel were flown in to embassy parties. And we need to understand more about whether Peter Mandelson, in pushing for deliverables for the state visit, was pushing for deliverables with Global Counsel clients for the state visit. Would he confirm that not just on Palantir, but on the contract given to Anduril Technologies, that Peter Mandelson was not involved in any way at any stage of the development that led to the decisions on those contracts?
Minister.
Can I thank him for his question? Looking for deliverables ahead of a state visit is, I'm afraid, pretty standard practice, something that his government did just as much as it is something that we look at. We will continue to have conversations with our ambassadors in all circumstances, as he would expect in relation to here. But he raises questions that should be answered by the publication of the information. We've committed as a government in order to publish the relevant information that the House has asked for, and that is a commitment made last week that we stand by.
Neil Duncan-Jordan.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The government's ongoing relationship with Palantir is deeply concerning, given the company's involvement in Israel's crimes against the Palestinians. Palantir's AI technology has been used to destroy entire neighbourhoods, schools and hospitals. So if we claim to want an ethical foreign policy and pride ourselves on being a rules-based nation, why are we still signing contracts with such a company?
Well, I entirely appreciate the position that the honourable gentleman comes from. Palantir provide services to the United Kingdom that keep our troops safe and enhance our national security. We have a range of contracts with US firms, both in procuring services but also procuring platforms. All those contracts go through the necessary rigour and assessment as before they are signed. Some of those are subject to competitive tender. For other reasons, they're subject to direct award. We'll continue to work with our US partners.
Dr. Ellie-Jones.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, the co-founder of Palantir, Peter Thiel, maintained a close financial and personal relationship with the paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And there are really profound ethical concerns about the web of connections between Thiel, Epstein and Mandelson. The honourable member is absolutely right. The MOD contract with US-based spy tech giant Palantir absolutely stinks. So will the MOD now cancel that contract? Will we get a fast and independent inquiry into the government's contracts with Palantir? They're on several billion pounds worth of further framework contracts with the UK government currently. Will we find out whether Mandelson shared privileged information with Palantir? And if it is true, as the Times has alleged, that Palantir is hosting a party in Mayfair tomorrow for MOD officials, will he get that stopped?
Minister.
Well, I appreciate the questions that she asks. It would be a stronger position if the Greens weren't so soft on defence. We will continue to invest in our national security. We will invest in the contracts that keep our troops and our country safe. That will involve investing in UK firms. Indeed, it will involve investing in international partners at the same time. I've been clear at the dispatch box that we will comply fully with the humble address agreement made last week and publish information in the right way in due course. That will, I hope, be able to provide more of the answers that she is looking for.
Does the Minister appreciate how appallingly badly it looks for the Prime Minister of this country and the then Ambassador in Washington, the disgraced Peter Mandelson, to have met with Alex Karp, the Chief Executive of Palantir, in February last year, without any written record of that meeting at all? Is he at least able to say which officials, other than, of course, our then ambassador, were present at that meeting?
Minister.
As I referred to the earlier question around publication of information on that, he will have seen the photographs that appears on number 10 Twitter. He will also recall, perhaps as his time as a Defence Minister, that the then Defence Secretary, Ben Wallace, met with Alex Karp back in 2021 as well.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister really understand the depth of anger and feeling all around the country when people read and hear about Palantir, the way it's wormed its way into government contracts, the way it's wormed its way into the National Health Service, and its behaviour on behalf of the Israeli Defence Force in the destruction of Gaza and other places using artificial intelligence technology? Do we really want to be involved with a company like that? Cannot we just distance ourselves from Palantir altogether and have some ethical procurement policy across government, not just in the Department of Defence, but other departments as well?
Minister.
Well, I appreciate the right honourable gentleman's position, long-standing position, a number of the items that he's asked about there. I've been clear to the House today that we will continue to work with our US friends. They are our closest defence and security partner. Where appropriate, we will look at working with US technology firms that can provide best-in-class products that deliver increased defence for our armed forces and for our nation. We'll continue to do that, as well as investing in UK firms in order to do that as well.
John Clem.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm not qualified to make observations about the enduring value for money or effectiveness of Palantir, but I am concerned that Mandelson's dynamics with every aspect of this government has toxified the integrity of this government's processes. And unless the Minister can make absolutely clear what quiet, unspoken influences Mandelson had on this follow-on order with Palantir, then people are bound to question the integrity of that process. And to the Minister's earlier point,
If we are going to have a viable alternative and a meaningful competition in future, he will need to do a little bit more to advance the case for alternatives beyond just saying he has an SME strategy.
Minister.
Can I thank him for his question? He's right that it is important that people can have confidence in the system and confidence in the procurement system. As I've set out to the House here, the decision to extend the contract with Palantir that was originally signed in 2022 by the government that I think he was a part of at the time was made by the Secretary of State and the Secretary of State alone in relation to that. I do want to see more British AI companies working in defence. It is something that we've been very clear about. Indeed, I think even the last government set out an ambition to do more. We've stepped up on that to make sure that we can grow our own indigenous AI industry and have their software and their services be able to be onboarded into a more AI-friendly defence environment, because we know that AI provides a decision advantage for our forces, which is necessary to keep our country safe. I take the points he's made very seriously, though, and I'm certainly going to make sure that when we can publish the information that we have committed to do, that hopefully that will answer some of his questions.
Alison Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Palantir has links to Peter Mandelson, to Teal, to Jeffrey Epstein, the paedophile, and it is extending its web of influence across multiple parts of our public sector. It is extraordinary that the government is so reluctant to have this deal properly scrutinised. Does the Minister come to this place today feeling any shred of embarrassment that he cannot tell us why there are no minutes of the February 2025 meeting? We don't know whether a future contract was discussed, and we don't know whether the Prime Minister was aware of Mandelson's links to Palantir.
I thank the young lady for her questions. I'm absolutely happy that we have signed a contract with it, and conducted in the appropriate way. Scrutiny of that process is not something that I'm afraid of. I think actually scrutiny of that process will show that the decision made by the Secretary of State was made by him and him alone in order to do that, that the extension of the contract signed originally by the Conservative government in 2022 delivers a benefit to the United Kingdom and secured £1.5 billion of investment in the United Kingdom and provides onboarding routes for more SMEs and makes the United Kingdom Palantir's European headquarters, which helps support our economy and our armed forces in the future. But the minutes, as I've mentioned a few times, will be a matter for Downing Street to publish, but it's pretty standard for ministers to meet with defence suppliers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a call with investors a couple of weeks ago, Palantir CEO Alex Karp said, and I quote, "We're super proud of the role we play, especially in places we can't talk about. Palantir is here to disrupt." And he continued to say, "and when it's necessary, to scare our enemies and on occasion kill them." The share price of Palantir has almost doubled over the past year. So can the Minister confirm if Peter Mandelson, the Prime Minister, any Cabinet Minister, any member of his government or the MOD or any public official currently have shares in Palantir and will financially benefit from the government contracts it has been awarded?
Minister. Can I thank him for his question? I'm afraid the role of defence is to disrupt our adversaries. The role of defence is to secure our national security. To do that, we possess capabilities that can disrupt, deter, and, if necessary, defeat our adversaries. That includes killing our adversaries at times.
Well, first of all, don't walk across the member who's getting the question. Sit down. Just sit down. Please, you ask the question, wait for the answer. Don't keep interrupting. We've got to treat people with respect and tolerance in this House, Minister.
Cool. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is the role of defence to keep our country safe. As part of that, we do procure lethal capabilities. Not all the capabilities we procure are physical capabilities to secure our national security. AI will continue to be a larger area. His question around transparency of our shareholdings is, as a Defence Minister, we have to publish all our shareholdings with the relevant Standards Commissioner. In terms of that, I don't hold shares in Palantir, and as a Minister, no ministers in Defence are allowed to hold any shares with a company way that interacts with defence businesses.
Adam.
Mr. Speaker, in 2024, Leicestershire Police signed a contract with Palantir worth close to £1 million for an intelligence and investigation platform. Now, from what I can deduce with my work that I have done, there was absolutely no formal tender process, and I raised this concern in the Chamber in the summer of June 2025, along with my concerns of Palantir's racial profiling and civil liberty abuses, the sum of which we are seeing in ICE raids now. So, the written response that I received at the back of this did not address any of my concerns. So will the government now ensure that all the information about this contract is immediately released? And can the Minister confirm that Peter Mandelson played absolutely no role in unleashing this dystopian contract on the residents of Leicestershire Police? Leicestershire.
Thank you. I appreciate the focus that he has on that particular contract. As a Defence Minister, I don't know about Home Office policing contracts that were secured by individual forces. I can direct him to my colleagues in the Home Office who might be able to help more.
John MacDonald.
I've been trying to follow the Secretary of State's responses with regard to the issue of relationships with political parties and others. Could I ask him to take back the issue with regard to some companies, for example, the Quadrature Hedge Fund, which has massive investments in Palantir, but donates to political parties in this country, including the Labour Party, a £4 million donation in 2024, and what influence that had on the decision-making processes around the award of contracts.
Minister.
Can I thank the right honourable gentleman for his question and for the inadvertent promotion that he gave me as part of it. I think he's right to talk about the necessity to ensure that political donations and transparency are in order. It's something that the government has already set out some changes on, and I want to see our politics learn the lessons of the experiences of the past to make sure that donations are clear and transparent, something that has not always been the case under the last government. But I take seriously the issue he raises, and if you'd like to write to me about the detail of that particular one, I'm happy looking into it.
Jim Shannon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I thank the Minister for his answers? And the Minister is well known for his decency and as a good Minister and always tries to answer well. The Minister will know that I've been a firm supporter of the need to enhance defence both physically and in the cyber world, and welcome the defence contract. However, public confidence is at an all-time low due to the Mandelson debacle. His connection to this firm naturally bring about questions, which is why this UQ has been asked today. So how can government assure us that this firm was awarded not due to any connection, but because they can provide the best programme and the best defence for our nation? Thank you.
Minister.
Can I thank him for his question? I'm a big fan of his as well. I think I've been clear in the answers today that the decision to award the extension of the 2022 contract signed under the last government was made by the Secretary of State and by the Secretary of State alone. It was his decision to do so. We're procuring new AI capabilities to speed up our delivery of defence outcomes within defence. We know that our adversaries are using AI in terms of how they are positioning themselves. It's necessary that we do so as well. But he's right that as we deploy more artificial intelligence, not just in defence, but across our wider economy as well, that there's a level of confidence that can be secured in the contracts and the technology themselves. That's a bigger debate than just this one here, but I understand precisely where the honourable gentleman is coming from.
Can I thank the Minister for his responses this afternoon? I will allow a couple of moments for the front bench to swap over.